What's up, you guys? Void here coming back at y'all with another Commander must-have video. We are again looking at Rivals of Ixalan and looking at some good value cards that we can try to build up a collection for. That way we have the cards that are actually good for the format and they are actually attainable. We're not going to be going after cards that are over $5. Usually when I make these videos I try to make it cards that are under $5, and for the most part it's been cards that are under $2, $1. It's been insane. There's a lot of good value cards in the set that are dirt cheap. But this time we're going to be looking at Azor, the Lawbringer. Right now is about $3.40 on TCG Player. That's where I'm getting my prices at. Regular foil is about $14, and the pre-release foil is closer to $13. So because it's a mythic legendary creature, a lot of people like foils for their commanders. A lot of people just like foils in general. The foils are always going to be worth a little bit more. But Azor himself is still attainable for under $5. Now to go over the card pretty quickly, he's a 6 mana in Azorius for a 6/6 legendary creature Sphinx with flying. And when Azor the Lawbringer enters the battlefield, each opponent can't cast instant or sorcery spells during that player's next turn. So that basically just means all of your opponents have to use other spells. They can't really use counter spells, they can't really use board wipes, they can't really deal with your side of the board in any efficient way unless it's with creatures, which is, again, the importance of creature-based removal in any format really is pretty good. But in Commander, it's such a big deal because we do have cards like these that are capable of just locking your opponents down. So getting your value out of your creatures is so important. But then again, there are cards like Torpor Orb that are also specifically designed to hate on your opponent's creatures that enter the battlefield and deal with non-creature permanents such as Trastodon or Acidic Slime. But anyway, you get the gist. He's just a lockdown card with a cool ETB trigger. Now onto the second part. Whenever Azor attacks, you get to pay basically Sphinx's Revelation mana. 3 mana and X, 2 of its blue, 1 of its white. And if you do, you gain X life and draw X cards. I apologize if my voice is a little bit iffy. I'm a little bit under the weather. So right there you have a way to get some more card draw and gain some life on your commander at the same time that you're also going to be locking them down. Now alone, Azor the Lawbringer is good for a full turn cycle until you can start swinging with him and gaining that life and drawing that card. But that's about it. You do need a strong supporting cast in your deck in order to make sure that Azor is successful and consistent. You do need some good equipments, obviously. It's going to be a huge target on the field, especially when all you have to do is just attack. You don't even have to deal combat damage. It's very easy to trigger that and be able to draw a ton of cards, which is exactly what you want in these colors. Control is always good if you can get more cards off the top of your deck. You have more answers that you can draw into and more win cons at the same time. Now obviously if we're talking about Azor as a commander, it's pretty much just a given. I mean, we all knew this. We've seen a lot of good control based commanders that aren't necessarily like this, but there's no doubt in my mind he's going to make a brilliant commander if you want to go that route. I haven't made a deck tech of him yet, but I am going to consider it, at least within the next couple weeks. Now, if we're going to look at him as one of the 99, most people have pointed this out, that it is an ETB trigger. When he enters the battlefield, each opponent can't cast instant or sorcery spells during their next turn. So all you would have to do is throw it into one of the 99 of a Brago King Eternal deck. That deck is all about flickering non-land permanents, having them come back during that combat, so you get the EGB trigger all over again. You could also throw it into Rune of the Hidden Realm, a deck that also cares about flickering creatures, getting their awesome ETBs all over again. Now, as far as comparison goes with the ETB, I would like to throw that comparison to Lavinia of the 10th, which is another good Azorius-based card, both lore-wise and what it does for the game. It's going to lock down your opponents. That's very much what the Azorius are, but detaining permanents that are CMC 4 or less, I think is just incredibly oppressive, and I've seen it all the time work well with Brago decks. Your opponents can't really do that much. This is arguably just as oppressive, if not even more, because you are keeping them from casting instants and sorceries, which is primarily where the majority of your removal, the majority of your answers are going to come from. Yeah, you could still play creatures, you could hope for the best, maybe you get some good ETBs off of that, but that's about it. That's all you can really hope for as far as removal goes. With Azor, being able to flicker him over and over again, especially consistently with a Brago deck, is just insanely powerful. And to top it off, he's just incredible attacking as well. It's one of those things where I just did a Grand Arbiter Augustine deck tech, and one of the good things about him is that he is capable of locking down your opponents. However, he doesn't have that built-in advantage. He doesn't have that built-in card draw consistency. It's more or less just a way to force your opponents into making bad decisions with their mana. Whereas Azor is just, okay, you can't cast these spells. You have to wait until either that full turn cycle is done or whenever you're capable of straight up dealing with Azor, because it's just never going to end. If you get into that lock, the game is as good as yours, especially when you consider that you're also in the control colors. You're going to be drawing a ton of cards. You likely have counter spells. And all this being said, you could also just throw Brago into one of the 99 as Azor the Lawbringer if you want to use him as the commander. So you would then just fill your deck with flicker effects specifically just to flicker Azor. So you could get that lockdown in that variant. However, it would be a little bit easier to do it in a Brago deck. So all you would really have to do is just get out Azor. Hopefully you already have Brago out there, and then just start flickering your Azor. But in an Azor deck, I definitely think you have the good combination of oppression and consistency that you definitely want. Not necessarily something I would consider for stacks, I think, or at least not in the conventional sense that you're using a smokestack, because most people would associate stacks with smokestack, Winter Orb, those cards. Well, I think you could definitely try builds with those. This would be better off if, again, you just focus on that ETB trigger, getting the most value for it as you possibly can. But the best way to really build around him, I would say, is just build the best Azorius control-based deck that you can, and then have those flicker effects, because if you can lock your opponents down, you have a 6/6 flyer that can attack, give you life gain. It's a pretty decent cushion when it is X. So even if you are basically playing a game of Arch Enemy, you have a way to get back into games with your commander. You have a way to draw cards, gain life. It does cost a lot of mana to do that. Like most X-costed spells are going to demand a lot of mana for value. His trigger is pretty good though. Exactly what you want in these colors. You want more consistency, more card draw. So all of these things, when you consider the price is still under $5 as a legendary creature with this much potential in the format, I think it's just insane. Don't believe he's seeing any play as far as standard goes, but I am definitely sure that he's going to see even more commander play during this year. And who knows, we may eventually return to Ravnica yet again and get even more lore for this character, or get even more support. I believe in the story he's actually just exiled to one of the islands in Ixalan, and it's very weird. I haven't been paying attention to the lore, but hopefully we could get some more support for this type of commander. I think it's very oppressive. It's not as oppressive as I would honestly say that Grand Arbiter Augustine is, because your opponents are basically forced to pay that one extra. With Azor, there is at least this illusion of hope that that turn cycle is going to end and then they can resume casting their instants and sorceries, because there are a lot of decks that are just based around instants and sorceries, such as Cast Dissonant Mage, even Nekasar the Mindraiser. You stop those decks from casting instants and sorceries, well, you basically just shut them down, because there's just so much of a reliance there. A lot of those win cons are based around, can I successfully cast these instants and sorceries? Stopping them from doing that is just hilarious, and there's very few cards that are capable of just shutting down an entire deck. But if you are capable of then getting that lock on your board, you can just shut down those decks. It's incredible. And it reminds me of that card, Sphinx of the Final Word, where basically your opponents just can't respond to what you're doing. It doesn't stop them from doing what they're doing, but it just makes you basically unstoppable. So that's a good pairing with Azor. I think when it comes to Sphinx control, just insane how much oppression there is. But honestly, the card's still under $5. Pick it up if you haven't already. Good as one of the 99, even better, even more oppressive as a commander. So that's going to do it for this week's Commander Must-Have video. Let me know if there's any other cards from Rivals of Ixalan that you want me to do a video on. Hopefully it's under $5. That's what I want to make the videos about. Yeah, of course the foil versions are more expensive, but we're not going to make these videos based off of the foil versions, are we? But as always, you guys have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you all next video.